All right, what is up, you heathens, demons, you blasphemous, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. Today, it is not the Raging Atheist that's going to be raging. We are going to have a debate between the Messenger Reveals and the Atheist Rationale over the ongoing PTSD cure debate that's gone on for the last few weeks on the channel. And they are here to put this shit to bed today. It's probably going to be a dumpster fire, but maybe not. But if it is, it'll be the first one on my channel I'm not involved in. So I'm going to kind of just sit back, relax, and let Atheist Rationale, Messenger Reveals introduce themselves real quick. I'm going to plug the drinking contest tonight. Well, haven't cracked it yet. I've got 4 really strong beers as backup if I go through this whole thing, and there's a good chance I'm going through this whole thing. So come with a full stomach and lots of tolerance, buddy. That's all I'm going to say. So without further ado, we'll let Atheist Rationale and Messenger Reveals introduce themselves, introduce their channels. You can find their links in the description below. I strongly urge both of you to check out both of them. I consider both of them to be genuine people, friends of mine, and I'm hoping that 2 friends of mine can air their grievances against each other and come together at the end of a beautiful dumpster fire. So let's get started, guys.
Yeah, dude, if you want to introduce yourself first, I'm totally okay with that. Go for it.
Okay, only because you said. My name is John, otherwise known as the Messenger Reveals. I run a YouTube channel that has information for both my theological beliefs as well as incorporating some of my views on psychology and being free from things like stress, anger, depression, building your self-esteem, freedom from substance abuse and addiction. So I've made some proclamations about, things like PTSD and personality disorders that can be cured. Even though there are some in the behavioral health community that believe that those things cannot be cured and that all you can do is develop coping skills to be able to manage them and have some level of functionality. But in regard to my position, what I've done worked. It worked both in a clinical practice and also worked personally in mentorship or discipleship with friends and family. And I'll leave it at that and turn it over to Atheist Rationale.
So this is just supposed to be introductions to our channel. So what do? Basically the same thing every other atheist channel on YouTube does. I debunk some of the hateful aspects that come out of Christianity. I like to tackle some woo every now and then, and that's exactly why we're here. And I also like to take on big organizations like the new IFB. You probably know a lot about them because you're all big fans of the Raging Atheist. If you're not sub to him right now. Also, if that's the kind of content you like, come to my channel. What we are going to be discussing today is the Messenger Reveals supposed cure for PTSD, which I believe has a lot of problems. First off, when it comes to the realms of peer review, we had a stream just recently where they kind of started this whole conversation, I guess you can say. And in that stream, you can find it on his channel. It's called The Cure for PTSD. Messenger Reveals says, Drag asks him why he, Dragnot, you probably know him, ask him why he's not putting any of this information into peer review. And he says he doesn't want to make the time for it. And then Drag goes on to say, that doesn't give a reason as to why you would not publish it. Messenger Reveals' response to him is, if you guys understood or the world understands why and how we act the way we do, there's going to be people in positions of power and authority that will abuse it. He never got into any detail as to who these people in power and authority would be that would use this method in some way to take advantage of people. So at some point, I'd like to discuss that today. Other things we might want to discuss are your supposed universal model of behavior. Now, this isn't something that anybody in the realm of psychology at the PhD level would ever claim to have. And I feel like we need to emphasize a little something here. You actually don't have a you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist in any stance. You're a master's in counseling. And there's actually huge differences in disciplines, for instance, you as a counselor have no, let me go back to my source on it. You have no authority to do your own line of research. If you were to be in any sort of research field, you'd be working under somebody else. And the fact that you don't have any peer-reviewed research to back up your supposed cure should be troubling. And if we were to talk about the theological perspective from it, here, I got quotes from you. Now, should actually go to this first. When you're talking with I'm trying to find the direct quote from that you said to Shannon Q. Well, basically what you tell Shannon Q during the what's it called? Conversation on cure for PTSD. You tell her if you'd like to, if we wanted to learn your methods as to what your treatment entails, all we'd have to do is go to your video on the reveals, messenger reveals, secret.
Oh, we lost you.
Your mic's out, bud. Give him a second. Let's be patient, folks. He's having some technical difficulty. Or it's divine intervention setting in.
Yep, still not hearing you. They are. Still not hearing you. No, not yet.
French toast, man.
There you go.
Here we go.
Okay.
I heard French toast.
my USB stuff here is kind of not functioning completely properly. So every once in a while, my mic's going to cut out. I just noticed it like last week when I was on David Worley's podcast, and I don't know. So at some point, I need to fix this thing. I got a fan that's all fucked up too.
So when you cut out, it was right around the part where you were talking about something I said to Shannon Q. So that's what they didn't hear.
Well, what I was trying to point out was like on a couple of the streams that you were featured on in Raging Atheist channel is you try to say that your cure has absolutely nothing to do with theology. And I wanted to prove that that's actually not the case and that you've been lying in each one of these streams. Universal model of behavior, that's not it. God damn it. I fucked up.
How much research
I got all
have
my
you done?
papers mixed up. I got I think like somewhere going on like 10 different research articles, and then I got 3 different things on the difference between psychologists, therapists, and counselors, and how you don't have any authority to do your own research, which is why you don't have any peer review. I barely talked about your conspiracy theory. I was trying to get into the theology basis behind your cure.
All right, so why don't we let Messenger Reveals respond to what you presented so far, and then you can get your notes in order as he responds to.
Yeah, thank you.
What's been going on so far?
Thank you.
I think I noted like 6 or 7 points in all that. So if I missed some of them, it wasn't intentional. He mentioned that my universal model, that I don't have the authority to even publish anything at this point. Well, anybody, even at a master's level higher, can publish to any scientific or psychological or psychiatric journal for entry if they want to. Many organizations for either the APA or the ACA will accept entries from even master level students, let alone master level practitioners. So his claim that you don't have the authority to do those things, he's very mistaken. People in psychiatry are basically clinical doctors. Their methods and what they do aren't always researched in their basis, whereas psychologists, that is the prime function for what they do in terms of trying to further the field. Psychiatry will do it on a psychoneurological level, but the psychologists that have PhDs in clinical psychology, or those that have PsyDs, which are a professional degree, really have more of a basis for research to, furthering the field and the things that they do. And those things are conducted at university levels. I've considered doing a PhD, and I'm 48 years old. So my whole thing in terms of, even when I went and did my master's originally, was to build some level of credentialing for things that I had come to understand that were further in depth than what somebody would have if they hadn't gone through school. When I pushed, this model that I had for human behavior up against psychology and up against clinical counseling, up against, theoretical models that were designed by psychologists such as Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, Carl Rogers, Fritz Perls, even stuff with Adler and Jung and Freud. The model that I had created was a universal model, because each of their models for human behavior only incorporated an aspect of how and why we do what we do. And almost anybody who gets in the field generally will sit there and share information according to their own worldviews to begin with. So we all have a predisposed way of viewing ourselves and the world around us. For example, Albert Ellis, who is a psychologist, he started pursuing his therapeutic model, which he called rational therapy, and then eventually rational emotive therapy, and then eventually rational emotive behavior therapy, because he had social anxiety. And he was looking for a cure for his own social anxiety. And that was the model, the ABC model, that he developed to help deal and cope with that. And once he was able to incorporate those things for himself, he was able to go later on, put those things into a research facility and test them up against other type of psychological or mental disorders. And that's where his, quote, research-based stuff came. It doesn't mean that because I haven't done it yet, doesn't mean that I won't pursue it at some point. But because it is a universal model, and it does incorporate, in terms of our inner depths of who we are as human beings, how and why we act the way we do, I realize that already even if you look at it from a sales and marketing aspect, they all look into psychological studies for how and why we buy the things that we buy. And they're looking to motivate people through manipulation to get you to buy their products and subscribe to their services. People think they have free choice to decide how and why I choose what I choose as far as the products that I'm going to purchase.
I actually have an interesting quote on that from the Northwestern University.
Can you wait till I'm finished to provide it?
Perfect.
I said, can you wait till I'm finished to
I said perfect
that?
Instead of response. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in those ways, they use our malleable and fragile minds to sit there and implant their jingles or their message so that you do buy their products so that they can make money. So if you look at even our governmental positions, look how divided even the United States is between liberal and Democrat versus Republican and conservative. The purpose for division was intentional by both parties to maintain a level of control so no other third or fourth and fifth parties can come out to be able to rule in those ways. And people think, oh, I lean towards conservatism, or I lean towards liberalism, I lean towards Democrat, or I lean towards Republican. Well, I'm here to tell you that you've all been programmed to believe and subscribe to what you have been. And it started off when you were infants and adolescents and children. Those things got incorporated into you. And unless you got around somebody that you look to with some level of authority that sit there and said, hey, here's a better and new way to think and not be a slave to what you've been previously predisposed to, you're going to stay within those constructs and those archetypes for what you believe to be true. So people can make the proclamations that, they're free to choose and act and behave and decide the way that they do. But the reality is we're all very programmed individuals. And until you understand that programming, you're never going to be free from those things. Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to programming, you have a very interesting take on it. Now, I know you're trying to weed away from the theology aspect, but let me quote you directly. First, in your video in Secrets to the Kingdom of the Heart, part 1, you're revisiting. just about 1934, you go on to describe Hebrews 8:8 and 8:10 and how it incorporates into your cure. You say that the days are, first off, let's quote Hebrews 8:8 and 8:10. Hebrews 8:8, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant. Hebrews 8:10, I will put my laws in your mind and write them in your hearts. I will be their God and they will be my people. And then I've got a diatribe of yours that I've quoted word for word. When people say, I will put my laws on your minds and hearts, they think he's giving a checklist of do's and don'ts. That's a mistake, because the laws are healthy behaviors, examples of the right things to do. And when he says, put my laws in your minds and hearts, he means he's putting his inner being, his spirit within our hearts. So that is like him, and it is done through discipleship. People keep thinking that they're always going to get the magic Jesus or magic God download into their minds and hearts. And I'm sorry, if you're not an apostle or a prophet, that's never going to happen. That's not the way it works. That's why he said, go and be disciples of all nations. Usually there's a student and a teacher, a master and a mentee, or a master and disciple. However you want to look at it, it's about learning and growing from those who have gained what you don't have. When he says, put my laws in your minds and hearts, he means he's going to put something in your inner being that stops you from breaking the law. And then you go on to say that that's the reason why people don't have urges to break the law, and why people aren't depressed or full of rage. It's because they have gotten basically that, I'll even use your language, that God download through discipleship. Again, now that we know that your entire thing is based on theology, what I'd like to point out, within PTSD, we have something called religious and spiritual coping. And within religious and spiritual coping, we actually have a lot of data present that shows how well religious and spiritual coping will affect somebody with PTSD. And oddly enough, people that have a high military members that experienced high levels of combat have adverse reactions to religious and spiritual coping mechanisms, which is essentially what you provide. So essentially, if you find somebody that has very serious PTSD, there's absolutely no way, as the data shows, that you'd be able to help them out. You would actually potentially increase their risks of suicide by helping them. So to claim it as a completely completely universal cure is rather ignorant, especially because it causes that extra risk of suicide in people that have experienced high levels of combat. Well, now that we talked about the dangers of that, we should talk about something that you have said. On that live stream with that featured Ocean and Shannon Q, you mentioned that PTSD is not a biological problem. It's a cognitive and emotional problem that affects the biology. However, I have a meta-analysis from 2011 conducted by multiple medical doctors, PhDs in psychiatry, that goes over the various risk factors involved in developing PTSD, whether it be the 17 genetic factors or a lack in, or what was that? It's corticoda something, but I can't remember the name of it specifically. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because there are tons of biological factors. And
tons is not scientific, just so you know.
No, it's completely scientific. Every single thing that I have on this paper is based off of peer-reviewed research. And let's not forget that your cure, your universal model of behavior as well, is not based on any sort of peer-reviewed research.
Well, my first response will be like, if you ever took a serious research class, even at the bachelor level, let alone a master's level, you'll realize peer-reviewed article does not mean it's fact. It doesn't mean it's truth. It just means that somebody who worked in the field wrote the paper, and somebody who worked in the field reviewed the paper and had an agreement of their conclusions. But it doesn't make it truth. So even if you say, hey, it's peer-reviewed, you can't sit there and say this is exactly the way that it is, because it is.
One thing that we should recognize is that some peer review is better than absolutely no peer review.
No, it isn't.
There's
no.
You have to bring some sort of evidence to back up your claim.
You would like it to be the truth, but it isn't. No, you would like it to be the truth, but it isn't.
What exactly is that truth? What are you trying to say? I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying is, if you take a research class, they teach you how to weed through something, whether it has author or subject bias to it. There's a process that we go through in understanding things like T-scores and understanding the terms that we use in a research fashion to determine the reliability and the validity of one's peer-reviewed article or research paper. So if you don't understand those things, just because you're going out on a college website and you're looking up peer-reviewed articles.
Are you telling me that there is no dopamine deficiency between the connection of the amygdala and the hippocampus?
No. I'm not telling you that.
How do you know that? If you're not, you're implying it though.
No, I'm not implying it. Because I didn't disagree with you.
I have a huge meta-analysis describing all of the biological factors.
I didn't disagree with you. If you're going to ask a question, then listen for an answer. If you're going to ask a question, listen for an answer.
But your answer is peer review isn't always correct. But you're not providing any evidence to say anything that I'm providing.
That's not the question you just asked. You asked me about dopamine.
Yeah, I did.
And I was responding to the dopamine, which had nothing to do with the peer-reviewed comment that I made 2 minutes ago. You're having an inability to follow the conversation and an inability to listen to response. Do you realize that everybody watching this has realized I'm doing my best to let you speak, but you're not doing the same?
We're not talking about that. We're trying to talk about your cure for PTSD. So
we haven't even got to that point yet, because we're still discussing your understanding of the genetics that are involved with peer review research, because those are the points that you're bringing up. And then you asked me about dopamine and how it's affected within the brain, and I go to respond to that, and I agree with your peer-reviewed article in that case, and then you cut me off and continue to talk.
Okay.
So take some time to listen and be curious as to what I have to say, rather than just trying to make your points. Otherwise, you're going to look really silly throughout this whole debate. So take your time, listen, ask a question. If you do, then give me time to respond in the ways that I'm going to respond. Then consider what I had to say and its relevance from your own worldview. That's all I'm asking.
All right. Deep breaths.
All right.
All right. So Sean, go ahead and ask the question, and then let Messenger respond. I'm still here even when I'm my picture's not up. I'm just typing in the chat and stuff. So y'all have at it. Hopefully you guys can get this grievance killed. So go for it.
First off, you have to provide some evidence that any of the peer review that I bring forth to you is somehow inherently flawed.
I don't have to do that. I'm just giving you the understanding that peer review doesn't make it evidence-based fact. And if you can't acknowledge that truth, then it doesn't matter how many peer-reviewed articles you bring up, because you don't understand what you're reading and you don't understand how to determine the validity or reliability of what you do research. That's my point.
Okay.
So when you sit there and present peer review as if it's scientific fact rather than a peer-reviewed article, and the difference between a peer-reviewed article and a general journalist article is a general journalist writes about a number of different things that aren't even in the field for which he writes about. Whereas peer-reviewed means the person who wrote it works in the field or is associated with the field academically, and it's reviewed by a same person. It does not make it truth. That's one of the first things that they teach us. And then they teach us, when you're doing these things, how can you improve the reliability and validity for the articles you choose for your sources when you're writing academic papers. That's all I'm trying to share with you. Just because it's peer-reviewed does not make it fact, so don't present it in that way. Say, hey, this peer-reviewed article suggests this. What do you think? Or do you disagree or agree with it, and why? And then the burden becomes on me to sit there and substantiate my own viewpoint. And again, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to clarify some things. I'm really trying to help.
All right. Then why not address any of the points that I made, the theological aspect of your religion, and how about the RS intervention coping method that you could posit your treatment as due to the inherent theological.
What was the RS thing again?
Religious and spiritual coping.
Oh, okay. No, thank you.
Multiple studies.
I remember now.
That people with high levels of experience to combat actually receive no benefits from religious spiritual coping. In fact, it actually makes them their symptomology worse, which could in turn increase their risks of suicide.
Okay, so
and to claim a cure, you would have to somehow provide evidence that would be an impossibility, that you'd be able to help those people with high experiences of combat.
Well, I think what you're saying is people who have more of a severe symptoms of the disorder, correct?
Yeah. Now, I could bring up what you said about reprobate doctrine and why certain people can't be healed, but I don't know, maybe later.
Okay, one, I'll answer or respond to or discuss any of those things, and I'm not going to shy away from any of them. Like the first time that you opened up, you gave 6 points. I only really responded to one before you moved on again, and then you provided 2 more about weeding out theology and also PTSD and the effects of religious and spiritual coping and what the efficacy was of it, and also how it's damaging in some situations for severe symptoms of the disorder. So you have to decide, hopefully, which one you want me to respond to, and then don't use that as a segue into, well, clearly you're avoiding X, because that's not true. I don't have any desire to avoid anything. I don't have any desire to move away from things, but I do have a imperfect human brain just like everybody else. So,
well, then take the time to actually respond to something. I'm still waiting.
So which one do you want me to respond to? Do you want me to respond to why my viewpoints on human behavior have nothing to do with theology, or do you want me to respond to how religious and spiritual coping can be dangerous to somebody with PTSD?
How about that first one? Let's try to let me see you weasel out of the theology aspect in your healing method. I'm actually kind of curious.
Okay, so clearly from what you've heard from at the what the hell is your name? Atheist Rationale. Every time that he's going to make a point, he's going to sit there and insert his worldview on it, which is, weaseling out of something. So no, let me finish. See, again, you have an inability to listen to my response or allow me to speak. So
I'm not going to let you
Oh, you're not going to let me. So you're in complete control of this conversation. Is that your best intent? Is like every time I say something that may be make a point,
I'm not going to let you twist my points around, is what I'm trying to say. You're
trying to say when you sit there and say, let's see messenger reveals.
You're trying to say that I'm trying to insert my worldview here. What I'm trying to do is use your words.
Let's see messenger reveals attempt to weasel out of this, not respond, not have a healthy conversation. So from your viewpoint, no matter what I say, it becomes very fallacious in its nature, because all I can do is potentially weasel out of something rather than speaking the truth and you being wrong about your understanding of what I say.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the fact that you're not even under licensure yet.
That has nothing to do with the price of tea in China.
It has a lot to do with everything.
No, it doesn't. It has to do with, it has to, you don't have any credentials. So you're speaking from drawing to authority.
You don't even work. And you don't even work under a practice.
It's your limited ability to understand what you really read, because you don't have a background educationally. So all you're speaking from is, hey, I have potential symptoms of PTSD, which you've mentioned in previous live streams, and that because I was told by my therapist that it's not curable, that must be the be all end all truth. So then everything that you attempt to do is to sit there and discredit what I do because it's weaseling out of a particular subject. That's your best. So if insults are your best defense, it looks very ignorant and weak from your own worldview.
I haven't been using any personal attacks. I've been using.
If you say
your
weasel
actual
out of something,
opinion.
you realize that weasel out of something has nothing to do with that.
Well,
just
you're
listening or reasoning?
attempting to lie. You're attempting to
Oh,
lie.
so you know my intentions.
And this is why
So
you're not
your
even addressing
extensive
the
background and
theology
being able to
aspect of it.
read people knows that I'm intending to lie. You know this.
We've
Can you
already seen.
Can you
we've
tell me
already
how
seen
you
that.
have? No, give me the evidence that you have that proves that I intend to lie.
Well, right now you're trying to say that in this stream specifically, you've told us that there was no theological link to your unsubstantiated cure for PTSD and other mental health issues. However, I have brought up several quotes from you specifically that go against that.
Oh, so because if I make a video regarding my theological beliefs on things,
It's not about your theological beliefs, because you told Shannon Q directly that your video on the Kingdom of the Heart, Part 1 and Part 2, have to do specifically with your treatment methods.
No, I did not say it has to do with my treatment methods. You're not even providing a direct quote. You're drawing illusory correlations from what you think you understand to what I actually said to her, which I said, if you want to better understand where I'm coming from, then I would encourage you to watch The Secrets of the Kingdom, the Heart, because it's where I actually give some level of breakdown within there in terms of the biological, cognitive, experiential, and emotional processes. By no means did I sit there and say, hey, that's the exact cure. Those are sitting there foundations of it. And that's the research basis behind it.
The Secrets of the Kingdom of Heart is where I go into how and why we are the way we are, specifically to Shannon Q at 101:11.
Yeah, and I told her also it was in Part 2 where I talked about how to transform the heart or transform the inner being. In that entire series,
do you want to talk about that very quick?
That entire.
How exactly do you transform the heart and transform the inner being?
I am talking about that, so don't ask me if I want to talk about it, because I clearly am.
Do you want me to bring up that quote again where you talked about it having to do with...
It doesn't matter. You can bring up all the quotes that you want, because if you don't want to sit there and give me a chance to explain what I meant by those things, because you want to draw...
In Complete Healing, 102:46. Let's talk about complete healing. When you truly have unconditional healing, understanding, humility, empathy, and forgiveness, three things will remain. Faith. We have trust and confidence in someone or something based on belief, knowledge, experience, and our faith, which is in God. Our faith is in Jesus, our Savior, becoming like him in our inner being, in according to his image and likeness, so that we can truly be free from the ways of worldly thinking, reasoning, and behavior. We have hope. Hope means to expect and trust and confidence, or a desired expectation of attainment. So hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is actually having trust and faith in something to become. You have to have that assuredness that this is going to be the outcome, our expectation of obtainment. And love, and of course love, deep feeling and care and concern for someone or something. When we learn to have unconditional love, unconditional faith for all people, even for their assailants, even if they do horrific things, even when they don't believe, we realize that there's something in them that makes them act and think the way they do.
So what did I mean by all that?
Well, you stated right here that in order for signs of complete healing, you have to have faith in Jesus. Then we go back to where you said over here, when he says, put my laws on your minds and hearts, he means he's going to put something in your being that stops you from breaking the law. And then you go on to say that this is what stops people from committing acts of rage. This is what stops them from feeling depression, from feeling anxiety, stops them from committing crimes, committing sexual immorality, whatever you define that as. Justify the non-religious aspect of your cure now, please and thank you.
Are you going to listen this time?
Sure.
Okay. The difference is when I did the Secrets of the Kingdom teaching, it's the audience is theists. It is people who believe in God. And I'm attempting... See, here comes the interruption again. But I'm going to interrupt you because I don't know what's going to go on, because it sounds like you're about to weasel out of it, but I really don't have anything in response.
You directed #Heathen, you directed me and Dragnot Silas to these videos specifically to gain information on how we can be healed from our ailments.
No, I didn't. No, yes, I didn't. I said, no, I didn't. I specifically said, you should... I said, if you want to get an idea of what I teach, go watch the Unplug from Worldly Thinking series. I said the only other thing that I would recommend is go look at the Secrets of the Kingdom, the Heart, where I discuss the 4 internal processes within that teaching. It doesn't mean I expect or desire for anybody to follow my theological worldview in terms of gaining an understanding for those cognitive, biological, experiential, and emotional processes. So if I was having a conversation with an individual one-on-one as a mentor or as a disciple or as a student, where I'm teaching them to sit there and how to build and transform their inner being, it has nothing to do with bringing up any theological terms, because I don't use those in those ways. And for the people who have sat down with me and had those conversations, they realize I don't do those things either. So just because you can go out and watch a teaching that's all theological based, you have an inability to understand that that's not the way that I practiced as a therapist ever, or B, that's how I have private conversations with people, especially if they come from an agnostic or atheistic worldview.
I have reasons to believe that you're not in a practice. You've actually admitted to this.
No, I said when I did practice. I didn't say when I am practicing.
Are you currently in practice?
No.
Why not?
Because I believe the behavioral health world's broken and it doesn't serve me well to spend my time doing that stuff.
Is it because they don't accept this unsubstantiated form of treatment?
No, because everything that I practiced was from a cognitive behavior or rational emotive behavior therapy approach. And just because I gave unique insight in the psychoanalytic or the psycho teaching aspect of those things, it falls within the efficacy of CBT. I know you don't understand.
No, I'm understanding. I'm processing. I have autism. It takes me a second.
Okay.
Yeah. I've actually told you this several times over the course of this our conversations over the last week.
About autism? I don't think so.
I did. And chats. I got screenshots. Yeah.
I responded to your autism?
I basically have taken screenshots of every single conversation that we've had over the last week.
And I responded to your autism in those?
No.
No, I haven't.
Reason? Which is
no, because I don't always see the chat. I don't follow the chat like you do.
You, instead of addressing the autism, you went to say that I must have experienced this huge amount of neglect and abuse, and all of my arguments against you is because I'm like don't have a proper inner being, and Jesus hasn't input himself into my inner being yet, so I can't.
I never said anything about Jesus inputting himself into you.
Well,
show me the screenshot for that right now. Pull up that screenshot.
If you want to actually go to that conversation, let's
where I said that Jesus hasn't been input into you, please. You know I didn't say anything like that.
No, I was talking more about the what's it fucking called? The neglect and abuse and stuff. And then what I was trying to do after that was extrapolate why you think that based off things that you said.
My comments about you having abuse and neglect in your life, I think is a fair assessment based on your mention of your own PTSD from childhood trauma.
For all you know, that I could have been in a terrible car accident, or I could have been in a plane crash and been a sole survivor. I could have witnessed a murder. That could have not been neglect and abuse.
Well, you would have a different affect if those things were the case. Prove it. Well, it's based on my experience of evaluating people.
Can you provide any peer-reviewed articles to back up that claim? That
no,
I would
nor do I, as a person trained with the way that I am. I don't have to provide peer-reviewed backup to help you understand that cognitive behavior therapy or how we.
You just claim to have universal knowledge of what has affected me in my past without me ever telling you what happened.
I don't, because I'm looking at you from the inside. What's going on biologically, cognitive, experientially, and emotionally within you?
Okay, what's happening?
And if you had been part of something that you're describing as far as a natural disaster,
biologically and experientially and spiritually, tell me what that is.
Okay. Say that again.
Tell me what's happened to me biologically, emotionally, experientially, and spiritually, please.
But I never mentioned spiritually.
Okay, well, all those other things.
What are the other things?
Did you not hear those 3 other words?
Well, I used 4 other words. So your ability to listen to what I'm actually saying is very small because you can't listen long enough to sit there and understand and attempt to be curious about what I'm sharing. All you want to do is rebut it. And anytime I'm making a point that doesn't go the way that you want it to, you interrupt and say, yeah, but. So how are we ever going to have a dialogue or even a debate if you're not willing to listen?
Well, I'm trying to get you to bring up some
Oh, so you're trying to get me. So you want to control this situation so that it has the outcome that you desire.
I want you to bring some data to back up your claims.
No, you don't. No, you don't listen. You don't listen to data because I'm providing data, just not in the way that you want it.
You haven't provided any data. Your experience isn't enough.
Clearly, this conversation hasn't gone the way that you want it and desire it to go. I don't have to work in a practice to sit there and have an evaluation of a human being. And you haven't told me that I'm wrong. You haven't told me. You have not told me that I'm wrong about any type of abuse or neglect that you dealt with as a child. Do you realize you haven't said you're wrong about that? I've
told you hundreds of times that you're extrapolating my past based off our conversations. All I'm trying to do is expose the charlatan right here.
But there is no charlatan because I'm not.
There is, though, because you tell people that you don't work in a practice because you're strictly avoiding.
I don't have to work in practice to help people. Do you realize that?
Yeah, you need to work in a practice to have any sense of credibility. Here is a quote from Northwestern University. Mental health counselors and psychologists each require license to practice. However, the overall scope of practice differs according to their training. For instance, mental health counseling programs highlight talk therapy, while a psychology's master program stresses the importance of clinical assessments. These roles can overlap. Health counselors can use assessments in their practice, and psychologists can also receive training to provide clinical mental health therapy. In addition to psychological assessments, psychologist's role also includes working with the chronically mentally ill, such as clients diagnosed with schizophrenia or dementia and severe psychopathology. Psychologists may conduct research, psychometric studies, and other scholarly activities, and they may work with a multidisciplinary team to provide wraparound services. And let me connect that with the humanservicesedu.org. Seeing a counselor who is not also a licensed therapist may be cheaper, but it'd be wise to do extensive research on the counselor before opening up with intimate details of one's life. As is the case with all unlicensed professions, there are both fantastic individuals and those who are simply trying to profit at your expense. Being extremely careful in your choice of mental health provider is highly advisable. And
I agree with all that.
You don't seek out financial gain. You are trying to convert people into Christianity, as I have been able to show with.
You haven't demonstrated that at all.
I have, though. You address PTSD and depression and anxiety with this concept of the inner being, which is quite clearly based off things that you've said.
No, you're absolutely wrong, because if I was trying to convert people to Christianity, I would sit there and be using Christianese to be able to evangelize people. And I'm not an evangelist, and I don't care to do so. I speak more against Christianity than probably most people who are Christians, because I think that it is damaging and I think that it is unhealthy. And the fact that I have a theological view website, or I'm sorry, YouTube channel, to where I share things from that worldview for people who I'm trying to help get free from mainstream modern day Christianity in a healthy way, does not sit there and mean that I'm trying to evangelize atheists or agnostics. And when I talk about helping people with whatever they're suffering from, whether it be stress, anxiety, depression, anger, substance abuse, issues at work, issues in interpersonal relationships, everything is email me so we can set up a one-on-one Zoom conversation. And it's not going to have any discussion whatsoever with theology, nor do I care if people go to my channel. But if people are looking for information outside of that, that's the best I can offer them is, hey, if you want to get an idea of what I'm talking about, you can go look at those videos. However, for whatever unique things that you're dealing with, it's going to take a one-on-one conversation. That's always my position with everybody. So to sit there and say that I'm trying to evangelize somebody is a straw man.
Messenger reveals Secrets to the Kingdom, the Heart, Part 1, 1334. If you want to change, then the change has to occur within. The heart is a representative of our innermost genuine being, and we'll get into that in this teaching. Take the heart, these things, these concepts we're sharing with you, because they are very profound. It might be simple, but if you put it to the test, it'll create real transformative growth within your inner being. You'll become a better version of yourself. It's not something you're hearing in mainstream psychology or mainstream Christianity. It's taking things to a very in-depth level, the level that Jesus did when he shared parables. I hope you make the time to learn these things, because if you don't, you'll miss the big picture. And then immediately you go into Hebrews and then Hebrews 8:10, and then we go through that whole spiel about being imbued with Christ's inner being in order to not experience any symptoms of depression, anxiety, your PTSD. I'm struggling to find how it's not theological.
Because the audience for Secrets of the Kingdom are theists. It's not atheists or agnostics.
Even in your what's it called?
Unplugged from worldly thinking.
Yeah, and every single one of your unplugged from worldly thinking, you also bring up Jesus and
what is my audience in my channel? The Messenger Reveals. Theists, not atheists, not agnostics. However, however, when I've talked to atheists, agnostics, pagan, witches, regardless of what their theological or non-theological worldview is from a religious or spiritual position, I say there's things in there that will help you better understand yourself. So, for example, we have a person that's been on Raging Atheist channel, and she's been in the live chat. She said, despite the theological aspect, which I didn't enjoy, I found a lot of value in the things that he taught in those videos. Because she realizes I'm not trying to evangelize her. I'm not trying to convert her. I'm not trying to sit there and say, follow my way or you're screwed. And look at the comment right there where that person's responding to you.
AR, I've seen a couple of those videos. I'm working through the series. Yes, he brings up Christ a lot.
Yeah. Does she believe that I'm attempting to evangelize her whatsoever? She's a person who's been curious enough to it. So why don't you ask her? Why don't you appeal to somebody besides yourself?
Yeah. And
she says, but there was a lot that made sense.
Yeah, well, a lot of things can make sense, but that doesn't mean they're exactly right. And
what do you think make sense means?
One thing we should bring up, though, is the efficacy of evidence-based assessment and treatment. Now that we know that your treatment method isn't evidence-based.
It is evidence-based because it's still grounded within cognitive behavior therapy. I could sit there and draw that correlation easy in a research paper of how it relates to the stuff that Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis did research on. Mine is just more in depth than what they did.
So it's a form of CBT with religious backing. And we've already gone over the data.
No, it's not with religious backing. I just tied it into religion for a theist audience so that they could better understand their Bibles from some of the wisdom that you can extrapolate from the Bible. I think that there's a misinterpretation of scripture, just like almost every theist believes when they read those things. They read it from their own worldviews. And I believe that if you have an unrealistic viewpoint or unhealthy interpretation for what Jesus was teaching, for what he was recorded to have taught, then you're going to get it wrong. And it's going to lead you down a path of bigotry and a path of hate and a path that leads to negative well-being, as well as how you affect others in negative ways. But that's not me or what I've done in any way, shape, or form.
You have told multiple people, including me, Dragnot, and hashtag Heathen, Ocean, and Shannon Q, if we wanted to learn about your methods for treating PTSD, to go to your videos on
you cannot quote me as that. That's an illusory correlation. I never said go there to learn about PTSD because I haven't even touched on PTSD in any teaching.
I don't know why you keep trying to like wrap around this though, because this is
I'm not wrapping around it. You're just making illusory correlations and you're attempting to straw man my position.
It's not an illusory correlation. I'm talking.
You think that you're making a steel man argument, but you're straw manning every time because you don't understand.
Specifically, that if I wanted to learn how to take care of my PTSD, to go over and watch your Kingdom of the Heart series and to watch your Unplugged from Worldly Thinking series.
I said, if you want to have an idea of the things that I share, you can watch those things, but let's go have a one-on-one conversation about those things and discuss them. Have I not offered you a one-on-one on Zoom?
I've been trying to get you to talk about it here on live for everybody else to hear as well. But
so you want me to take you through a personal session one-on-one in terms of?
I don't want you to take me through a personal session. I want you to actually get into the your methods and your
no, you don't, because all you want to do is you want to straw man those methods. You want to straw man
it might
those
be
methods
correct.
because you think that there's no way that people should even buy into that there's a possible chance. You're not curious. All you want to do is reject. So your entire position is, I'm waiting for him to say something that I can reject or debunk because I believe in my heart that he's a charlatan, right?
Well, I've already talked about religious and spiritual.
Yes or no?
And how it
answer the question. Do you believe that I'm a charlatan and you're looking for anything I have to say as a reason not to even subscribe that I might have a possible answer that you don't?
All I have to point out the fact is that you don't have any peer-reviewed evidence. That's really all I have to do.
There's the dodge on Rationale's part. He's going to dodge it.
You literally refuse to put up any peer-reviewed evidence because you believe that somebody with high authority and power is going to somehow use this knowledge to abuse people. But really, all I'm seeing is somebody who's claiming to have a cure, refuses to put any effort into publishing any peer-reviewed claims to back it up. Someone who's actually not even qualified to do his own research on this.
I'm not qualified.
A master's in counseling.
A master level practitioner is a research-based practitioner. They're just not at the level of a PhD student. Not
in the realm of counseling. You could work under someone, but you can't do your own research. That's the problem here. You have to have a PhD level in psychiatry or a PhD level in psychology in order to do this that kind of research. And you don't have those qualifications.
All I'd have to do is take the ID as a master level practitioner and orchestrate it with them.
I have a source that I've already brought up in this conversation that talks about the difference between therapists, counselors, and psychologists and psychiatrists.
I already heard what you said about those.
And you haven't done anything. You haven't said anything that debunks that claim. And I'm still waiting for you to do that. I'm still waiting for you to bring some sort of data to the table here. But you're weaseling around it, essentially. I'm
not weaseling around anything.
What is
it that you think I'm equivocating around?
Why can't you bring any of your why can't you bring your treatment to the realm of peer review? Why can't you do that?
I can. I have the ability to.
Okay, then why haven't you?
Well, I mean, the simple answer, I have not made time up to this point to do it.
All right. Well, right after you gave that response to Drag, you said specifically that the reason that you haven't brought it to the realm of peer review is if you guys understood or the world understands why and how we act the way we do, there's going to be people in positions of power and authority that will abuse it. Who are those people in positions of power and authority that will abuse your universal cure for PTSD and depression?
I don't know exactly who they are, but I believe it's those people that are in those positions that could use what I share to do those things.
So you don't know who they are, yet you still make.
It's not that I know who. I'm just talking about. I can't sit there and say it's Bill Gates, it's Donald Trump, it's.
Well, you could just as easily point to a group of people that would do it.
Government officials, because they already use psychology to sit there and get in your heads.
Now, let's talk about this universal model of behavior then. Where do you grab that information from?
What do you mean grab that information from? That's not a...
Now, first off, we need to acknowledge the fact that nobody in the realms of psychiatry or psychology claims to have a universal model of behavior. There are so many things we don't know about the human brain, which is why we're doing so much research on various disorders and what ways we think, all that kind of stuff.
Who is we? So I want to understand who you're lumping yourself in with.
I'm just talking about we as a society. Yeah.
No, you're drawn to an authority as we.
No, I'm not. That's a claim you're making.
You said psychology and psychiatry, and you're not part of those groups, so you can't say we.
I'm a psych major, if that means anything. But we're not talking about my credentials.
You mean at the bachelor level, you're a psych major?
We're talking about your cure. We're not here to talk.
So if I don't have credentials as a master level completion, you have credentials as a psychology major that you're attending? You can lump yourself in with psychiatrists and psychologists?
I'm not lumping myself in with those.
If you use the word we, you absolutely are.
Can you should try and stay on the claim rather than trying to attack my credentials and character here.
Because your credentials and character are sitting there presenting yourself as if you're part of the authority of it.
It doesn't apply to the argument. It doesn't apply.
It does apply. It does, because it's all manipulation on your part to gain influence with whoever you're speaking to.
It just doesn't apply to the argument.
It's manipulative in its nature.
All right. How?
Which is, you're the type of person that would abuse what I give you to have your own personal satisfaction and gratification fulfilled.
Honestly, if I had the absolute cure to PTSD, depression, and all those other things, I'd want to bring it to the realm of peer review so that I'd be able to help out the millions of people that suffer from all these problems. Yeah,
you think that now, but you don't know what you don't know.
How do I know you're not abusing these people then? Because you are the one that claims to have the only universal model of behavior. You also claim to be the only one that is able to cure PTSD, depression, and all these things. It's inherently tied to your theology. There's no way to back out from that. And you have no evidence to back up that claim.
You asked how you know that I'm not abusing it right now of having it. If I indeed do, you would see it as an evidence.
I would actually make the argument that you are abusing people. And all I have to do is go back to that RS coping paper that I brought up earlier.
Really? So you have evidence that I've increased suicidal ideation in people that I've worked with?
No, I have evidence that says that if you were to treat people with high, it's just hard to find the wording for this because it's
that's okay.
Mouth, whatever. People that have experienced high levels of combat within the field and more, when they go through religious and spiritual coping, which would essentially be your methodology here because it's inherently tied to religious ideology, would actually worsen their symptoms and increase the rates of suicide within those groups that you treat. And I have evidence to back that up.
Why does it do that? Why does spirituality and religion do that to people?
I couldn't tell you honestly, but I can tell you what the data says. And like I said, people that go through religious and spiritual coping, which is what your method essentially is.
My method is not that. That's a straw man. You don't understand my method.
Straw man. I've told you.
Okay, explain my method. Atheist Rationale.
Can I interject real quick, guys? We're just hitting about an hour. We've got another hour. I wanted to interject before because, in my opinion, I know both of you a little bit. I've known Atheist Rationale for quite a while now. Me and Messenger have become friends. I think that both of you are genuine. I think, Atheist Rationale isn't the type of person that I would think would intentionally use anything against somebody just for harm. I think that he honestly believes his point of the debate. I also think that Messenger Reveals honestly believes that he has a cure for this. I think the question is the cure itself and the methodology and the proof of it is I think Atheist Rationale's main issue. But you guys go ahead. I just really wanted to kind of jump in and say something because I've been so quiet. But go back at it.
The whole thing about that, and I've actually provided evidence for the efficacy rates of many different kinds of treatment, whether it be EDMR therapy, whether it be CBT therapy, whether it be medicine therapy. There are percentages of how much of their symptoms have gone, how much of their symptoms have disappeared, how often people respond to this treatment, all that kinds of stuff. He has absolutely no data in those departments. He makes wild claims that there is some cure here without providing any evidence for it.
Were you responding to Knock or me?
No, I went off of him, but it's mostly to you.
Because you were using he instead of you. So that's why I was waiting for Knock to respond.
There are a lot of problems that are not really well known in autism. One of those things is I get words and names mixed up a lot. Pronouns are a really big thing. I'll probably be that guy that accidentally calls you by the wrong pronoun, but I promise this is an accident because I'm trying to be, I also have memory deficits because of my autism.
I'm really with Ocean. What Ocean is saying. Let's talk about the cure for a little while. We only have about an hour, so is there any way that you can talk about your method, Messenger? and you guys can kind of go in that direction. But I mean, if not, it's fine. Go at it however you want. But I'm interested myself in the actual methodology, and if it's possible, like, do you think that it would pass peer review, that this is a methodology that other people in the field can use and eventually maybe really put a curb at least into this epidemic of PTSD? But I'm gonna get back out of it now.
Sorry, I'm just reading the comments in the chat. MR is doing a lot of fucking conversation tricks that are underhanded, and I think he's fully aware of it.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of dodging. You haven't addressed any of the points that I've.
He's not talking about dodging.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the conversation tricks. It applies.
Well, you've used manipulation throughout this conversation by either straw manning and claiming that it's a steel man, or you've done things in terms of saying that even if I do share what I believe. See, there's the interruption again. You have an inability to listen, so do your best to listen. And so even if I attempt to share and say, hey, here's the approach that I take, and here's the things that can lead to healing and cure within a person for PTSD or personality disorders or whatever, you're going to sit there and say, show me the research. And I'm going to say, again, I don't have research, nor do I need it.
If you don't have a cure, then the conversation's over.
It's not that I don't have a cure. See, exactly. So do you see my point, Knock, that no matter what I say, he's going to say, no matter even if that is reliable and valid what he's saying, because it's not peer reviewed by somebody that's in the psychological field, we can't take it serious. Here's the thing. If you can't take it serious,
that's how
we're not talking about science. We're talking about your healing.
Which has to be evidence and evidence.
When you go to your therapist, do you grill them on the efficacy of their science-based approach to your treatment?
I want to ask them what treatment. I actually, in my treatment, first off, I know in our previous conversations you like to bring up like what happens and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to talk about what I do and what happens in my treatment. What I will tell you is I take control of my treatment. I want to know everything that's happening. I want to know exactly what type of therapy I'm receiving, what medications I'm receiving, what receptors that they act on, what neurochemicals they're analogous to. I want to know all of that. People that don't take charge of their treatment need to learn how, because that can lead to a lot of harm in the end.
Well, the only way that you can really take charge of your treatment is if somebody shows you how to do it.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that, though, especially since you have absolutely no data to back it up and nobody in this psychological field is willing.
Well, I mean, if you could sit there and pull the records that I did in terms of my notes, my clinical notes that I have to write for every client for every session, you would see the efficacy in how what I did worked and how people became free from those things in the treatment that was provided for them.
Earlier in this conversation, you already told us that you don't work in a practice. So the fact that you talk about notes and getting these records and stuff can't happen because there are no records.
How are there no records?
Let's just quote you from Cure for PTSD quotes, the video from Raging Atheist just a little while ago. The therapy I did while I was working in the behavioral health field for a year, I didn't have clients return. I had clients that had maximum of 12 sessions before they no longer required therapy. Richard Manson goes on to ask you, how long have you been applying these methods? As far as treatment goes, back as 2015. So there's actually a lot of problems with this. 3 years of practice isn't enough to establish any sort of credible amount of data. You have to go with these people throughout their life to make sure that there is absolutely no relapse within their symptoms. One of the sources I provided for this discussion today highlights one of the methods of action for relapse in PTSD as well. And that can happen by a reintroduction of the trauma, a simple change of environment, disrupting your routine, or the introduction of a new trauma. And that, again, is in my paperwork here. And to claim to have a cure, you'd have to somehow show that relapse is impossible. You'd also have to prove that any of the biological factors in PTSD have been reversed, such as the lack of serotonin between the amygdala and the hippocampus. You'd have to somehow show us that cortisol has been regulated and it's no longer in deficiency. You'd have to provide evidence that the connection between your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex has need a refresher there in my research. But either way, you'd have to show how each one of these has somehow been reversed. And as you claimed, you have no peer review, you have no research, you have no cure. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so I have no cure from your point of view. Now what?
No, from a scientific point of view. You have no data, which means you have no cure.
That's not true. Because for somebody to have something doesn't mean they have to have given something to somebody.
Well, you need to test your hypothesis against.
You would like me to test my hypothesis. Is that correct?
I would really like to. Do you know anything about Hitchens' razor?
No.
Things that can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. You have no evidence. You have no cure. Simple as that.
Okay, so why do we have this conversation then? Is that where you want to end it? I'll let you end it right there.
Well, we got the theological thing. We've proved that you're...
No, you don't have the theological thing because I explained it and explained how you were manipulating and drawing illusory correlations between the two things and what the audience was. So you don't have that.
I wasn't drawing any illusory correlations because, as I said, you have told me specifically.
No, I haven't. I never told you that the cure existed within those teachings.
All they have to do is go to the
I never told you that the cure existed within anything that was in those teachings.
All people have to do is go to the Cure for PTSD video and watch your conversation with Shannon Q.
What's my cure for? No, they can watch those conversations, but I never said that those teachings to sit there and be free from or healed from PTSD were on my YouTube channel. Those words never came out of my mouth.
You did, though.
No, I said if you want to better understand my position and worldview on human behavior, you can find some information there. But you're not going to find any true healing because unless you have a one-on-one back and forth with people, there's just too much to go through for your own unique individual worldview. Because you are not everybody. And those videos out there are general things to get people thinking and reasoning in a healthy way. They're general things.
Maybe we could talk about the reason why you don't work in a practice and how you get around that. Maybe we can talk about how you claim it's a teaching method or a discipleship method or a mentorship and how that allows you to avoid credibility in working within a practice under the guise of a PhD psychologist or psychiatrist. Maybe we could talk about that.
You can talk about it. I'm not practicing professionally. What's your point? I'm not claiming to practice professionally. Listen, let me respond. I'm responding to individuals. I'm not selling a service.
No data, no practice, no credibility, no accountability, no cure.
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
Yeah, to intervene because I don't think we're gonna get anywhere with this at this point. Because I think the problem is, and this was my beef with the whole situation, and me and you, we talked about this, Messenger, and it's the wording, and it's the cure, and it's having big claims. It needs to have some pretty big evidence, and that's what I was really maybe hoping on my part for this whole thing was, all right, either you'll have the evidence or not, but we can settle this, because without the evidence of it, then the claim itself becomes pretty much AR is going to win that claim. Without actual evidence, because anybody can say a thing. And I, like I said, I think you genuinely believe that you have this method that does cure this thing. But without proof of that method, or if we can't even get to the method, then I think that we're not going to really get anywhere.
You know what, guys? I need to tell you something. I have the method, the only working method of flapping your hands to allow you to fly. But I'm not going to bring it to peer review. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to keep it to myself, and maybe if you come to my religion, I'll show you how to do it. That's essentially what I'm seeing here.
Well, then you see very little.
Okay, sure. We could jump to personal attacks then.
I'm not suffering from the things that you suffer from. Why? Tell me tell me why that I don't get upset. Why don't I
Why-
get triggered? Why don't I get angry? Why don't I suffer from depression and anxiety? Why is that? Am I just that awesome as an individual? I've been just, magically chose to be this way.
I'm wondering why you're even bringing this up. What is my condition?
Because the reality of it is you're struggling with something and you want to debunk a potential solution for your problems.
It's a red herring.
Means that you want to continuously play the victim from the things that you suffer from. Going, there can't be a cure because I haven't found it.
We're going to victim blaming. I was hoping you would do this.
Victim blaming is when I said no. I'm going to correct you on that because you keep going. Oh, poor me. He's victim blaming. He's victim shaming. No, it isn't victim blaming. It's victim shaming because victim blaming would suggest that I think you're responsible for your trauma, and I don't. You're lying and drawing another straw man to help support, win argument and points with the audience to go, look, he's victim blaming, he's victim shaming. No, I didn't say you're responsible for the trauma you've been through. Never did. I just said that you're still suffering from it because you haven't found answers.
It's as simple as telling people the reason why they aren't cured is because they are reveling in being the victim and they just want to be the victim and they want to keep playing the victim. You're essentially.
I didn't say you want to. I said you are. I know you are doing this.
Either way,
I didn't say you desire it, but that's exactly what you're doing.
No matter what, if you're saying that I am doing that, or if you're implying that that's what I'm doing, you're still
because you haven't found an answer for what you suffer from. It can't possibly exist. You're lying to me, messenger. You're a charlatan.
All right, guys. Let me cut in because I think we're going to a place I don't really want to go to.
I have to bring that up every single time.
Yeah. I don't really want to.
It's not victim shaming. You're lying every time you tell people that it's victim shaming or victim blaming. Victim blaming is saying that somebody's responsible for the trauma that they went through, and that is not the truth. I don't believe that's true.
Well, let's keep it off of whatever Atheist Rationale's personal PTSD is, and I'm probably gonna end up wrapping this up a little sooner than full 2 hours because I just don't think that we're gonna get any resolution here. I want to get started on dinner.
Ocean's been talking in the chat here. He says it might be a good idea to get him to talk about any. I'm just trying to. I think you should step in and get the person defending cure to present something that could be debated rather than discussing anything. A claim of cure is irresponsible without any data. Just to finish that last off.
And I'll have that conversation with somebody who's curious, but you have no desire for curiosity. You want to, no matter what I say and share in terms of, hey, here's the approach, here's the style.
More curious if you
here's how it's different. Here's how it's different than cognitive behavior therapy and why it has more efficacy to it. And then if I share all that information and everybody goes, hey, that possibly makes sense. From your worldview, you'll say it's not evidence-based. I don't accept it regardless. And that's why you can't understand what I'm sharing.
That's Hitch and Tracer. Things that can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Well, great. You have that position. How is that helping your life?
Tremendously. I don't fall into scams like this.
How's it a scam? What's the negative outcome of it?
We just talked about it. If you are somebody...
You lumped me in a straw man with the religious and spiritual coping, which I don't even do. And I've never done.
You do religious and spiritual coping.
No, because my YouTube channel is not a platform for healing a cure for PTSD or personality disorders.
You have told me specifically.
No, I didn't.
I
told you, let's set up a one-on-one conversation and talk about things if you're truly curious to understand what my approach is and how to help you be the expert for your life. That was my answer.
Then you told them to go if they wanted to know.
I challenged Dragnet. I said, "Hey, when are we going to sit down for hour a week sessions and talk to each other?"
I know exactly what you told me. I don't know why you have to like.
I'm not gaslighting it.
This is gaslighting. When you're trying to tell somebody that what they experienced is wrong, even though they know and have the evidence that is right.
You don't have the evidence. You drew an illusory correlation by saying, "Hey, go there and you get an idea what I'm teaching," to mean that the cure exists there.
I've already showed that it's theologically based.
No, you didn't. You didn't demonstrate that.
Your inner being isn't completely tied to whether or not people have been.
So for everybody that's out there, if you believe that the atheist rationale is correct, please never visit my website or have conversations with me because clearly he believes something that can't possibly be valuable that I have to share. So we'll leave it at that. Don't have conversations, don't have arguments, because it's pointless. It's a very unhealthy perspective of not being curious and subjecting yourself to understand things that you don't understand and then put them to the test after you've heard them. I'm not asking for anybody to be a mindless parrot. And that's never an approach that I take with any human being.
Honestly, you bring up this mindless parrot thing a lot because I actually brought in academic sources to like back up everything that I'm saying, which is kind of funny. Weirdest straw man I've ever seen.
I didn't say that about you. Sources. You just took parodying out of context. I didn't say you were parodying. I said I'm not asking people to parrot. I'm talking. So again, you're red herring now. You're going off of what I even said. You're not even on the right track. I didn't say you were parroting. I didn't accuse you of parroting. I said I'm not asking people to come parrot what I have to share.
At this point, we're just talking in circles. We have been for a while. And like, I really want to just start trying to. We're not going to resolve this. Like I said, like, you know, I'm falling on me personally. I'm kind of falling on AR's side here. Just with, you know, I really wanted, and I understand, like, maybe you don't want to speak of the cure. Like, my problem is, you know, we shouldn't. The cure should have never came up. This is, but I just don't really see that we're going to get anything out of this. And I want to get to a positive note. I want to, you know, get to the drinking contest. Messenger, I believe you're still going to be drinking with us. This will not be coming up during the drinking contest tonight.
Thank you. But I'm not discussing anything serious.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time tonight. But I really, and a lot of people are pretty much saying what I'm thinking, that we're just not going to get any farther progress. I think both of you have had a chance to say your portions. And I would rather kind of cut it off before it just delves darker and darker. Like, I kind of see that it's going now, and I don't really want to go there. But I know Athena, Goddess of Wisdom and Warfare, wants to invite both of you onto his channel to continue the conversation if you're willing. But I know, like, I told him I got to do dinner. I got to get ready for this drinking contest with Will Kincaid, who pissed off Tasha and got timed out. So Will, get ready for the.
So if people want to get an idea of it, do you realize that Jay Pasek said that he wanted to go through something online live as if it was a one-on-one with me and I?
I'd like to see it. I should.
So I'm just saying, if people were looking for something that was as authentic as it can be, he asked me to do that on his channel with him one-on-one, and he didn't want to do it in a private Zoom. He wanted to put it out there for everybody to evaluate. So if he does choose to still do that, that may happen. And maybe what you're asking for that didn't happen here today can happen on his channel with him. But that's up to him if he still wants to do that.
I hope you guys continue the back and forth, and hopefully you can come to a resolution. And like I say, you know my beefs, Messenger. You know, it's always been with the wording cure. So
can we get the definition of that word to begin with? What does cure mean?
Well, to me, it means, you know, it's gone for.
Well, it means to be free from the symptoms of. If you go look at the definition,
it also means that it has no chance of coming back at you. It also, there are more symptoms to PTSD than just what's listed in the DSM-5. You know that, right? You know the DSM-5 is only the diagnostic manual. It's not the end-all be-all to what PTSD is. And just because somebody no longer meets the criteria on the DSM-5, that doesn't mean they're not cured. Like I said earlier,
it doesn't mean that they're not cured, or it means that they are cured.
Let me finish. Like I said earlier, there's already a method of action that has been identified in the relapse of PTSD. That's in my sources here. People can go look at it. In order to have a claim of a cure, you have to go. You have to somehow provide evidence that it's not going to relapse on you. There's a reason why they use terms like remission instead of the word cure in the psychological field. You're the only person that uses this word for some reason. And I've got a PhD psychologist that goes over the reasons why they don't use that word within the sources that I provided, so people can use that.
Yeah, so
I should have talked about the comorbidity issue with PTSD as well. Most people actually have somewhere between 3 and 5 other comorbid conditions. And if you want to claim that you are curing PTSD, then you'd also have to cure the comorbid conditions that go along with it that might happen due to the same traumas.
I'm hoping that, this is the last time the whole cure conversation happens on my channel. And like, I highly encourage that you guys continue to work this out.
Yo, Rage.
What's up?
One thing I need to emphasize.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let Messenger proselytize to people here, because he's been trying to get people from not just your stream, but from other people's streams. I think I was watching Dragnot last night, and he was proselytizing in that live stream. He was proselytizing in one of Cyrus's streams that actually kind of started this whole conversation. What he's using our platforms for, and I do have a screenshot of this, is he's literally trying to get people into his religion. He's targeting people that have PTSD, that have major depression, that have experienced trauma, and he's trying to bring them to his thing here. He's not here.
And there's a conspiracy theory for you, Nakasuchi.
He's not here to be your friend. He's only here to bring more viewers into his thing and bring more people to his very twisted version of Gnostic Christianity. It's not authentic Christianity, I guess, if you can call it that, but yeah, that's a whole wide thing in itself. And he threw that whole comment there, conspiracy theory. We only have to look at his comments. I have screenshots of those conversations that I could send you.
Seems like obsession to me.
Explicitly that he's only here to proselytize. So
I think that he's smart enough to realize that's not what's happening, and it's just your fear that it is.
I take charlatanry very seriously, and people that
yeah, because you've been hurt and wounded by people that were supposedly going to help you in life and didn't. I get that, but don't sit there and project your crap on me.
You're extrapolating from.
No, you're projecting your fears and worries on the entire atheistic community because you're afraid people are going to be hurt.
You have no idea what my past is. You have no idea what my trauma is.
You're demonstrating it in how you conduct yourself as a human being every day of what your past is. You're a unique collection of your own knowledge and experience, and what you portray has nothing to do with me and everything to do with you.
The fact that you think you can just extrapolate what my past is out of nowhere is a problem.
I'm not extrapolating anything. I'm giving an evidence-based understanding of you're making attacks and accusations without foundation. I've never proselytized on anybody's channel.
You have, though. I'm somebody who proselytized to. And
no, I didn't.
Several times in this conversation. Now you're gaslighting again.
Oh, so it's always gaslighting and always proselytizing and always this and always that. No, you're making assertions without foundation because that's all you have.
Talk about making assertions with no foundations, Mr. No Data. That's hilarious.
Okay.
Projection at its finest. Finally, we have a real example of it.
I don't think you do have a real example of it. Again, just more manipulative tactics.
Did you just say something about making assertions with no data? And haven't you been doing that?
The data and evidence is you. The data and evidence that I made for assertions about your past have to do with you. Because you feel the need to sit there and I got to save everybody from the messenger reveals because he's so horrible and all he's doing is trying to proselytize. So I'm trying to plant seeds in even Nakasuchi's head because I don't think he's genuine with you. And I think you're getting fooled, Nakasuchi. That's what he's saying to him.
So this is really getting to where I don't want it to go. Me personally, I like talking to people in their different worldviews.
Ray, I need to interject here. I feel like it should be mentioned that every time that I bring up the fact that he might be targeting people that are vulnerable, people that have PTSD, depression, and all this stuff, he has to somehow swing it back to me and say that the reason why I make those assertions is because I'm damaged, that I don't have healing. There's something inherently wrong with that, and that needs to be brought to the surface here.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't like where this is going because there's no way to know AR personally or even possibly what he went through.
The reason why I take
no, but at the same time, he's attacking my character and my intentions without any foundation for it as well. So he's doing the same thing, Knock.
Well, yeah, I think I want to, I'm need to get into a positive frame of mind. I knew this was going to be bad, but like I just don't really want it to get into personal attacks on each other. Like I really wanted to speak of the cure, so like I don't think we're going to get there. So I just really don't think. I think it's only going to devolve and make the two of your relationship worse than it already is if we continue with it. I think right now would be a really good time to kind of just stop, realize that we need to withdraw to our corners, that neither side is going to budge on this, and let's try to get into a positive frame of mind, because we got 4 hours and pretty much 3.5 hours till I'm going to start sending out links for the drinking contest.
I'm totally fine with cutting this right now, but like I need to defend myself a little bit. The reason why
I would let both of y'all kind of close out a little bit and make final points. But I really don't want it to devolve to personal attacks. Like neither one of you can actually like we can't know that Messenger doesn't have this cure. Messenger can't know what goes on in your personal life. But without evidence of the cure, in my opinion, the debate pretty much ended at that.
Yeah. What I'm just trying to say is, though, that my whole thing with wanting to debunk woo or like dangerous ideas or maybe people that exert.
Oh yeah, and I have made that point to
like
our community. We take this shit seriously. Like snake oil. If like a big claim, you got to have that evidence. I'm not sold that there is a cure. I do think that Messenger is genuine, and I think he thinks that he has a method that would work. Hopefully, he'll get it out there for everybody else one day. But I just don't think that we're going to get anywhere. But I would love both of you guys to kind of close out and just give your final points on it, because I want to get into a positive frame of mind. I want to promote the debate that's coming up for Dr. Josh and Skylar Fiction. So I want to kind of start getting into a happy mood because we're going to be drinking tonight and having lots of fun.
I just want to end that off with like, I'm a humanist. I want the best for my fellow humans. I don't want them to be taken advantage of by people that claim they can cure things with a method that's completely unsubstantiated. I don't want people to fall victim to dogma, all that kind of stuff. That's the reason why I take this so seriously. It's not because I'm damaged or that kind of bullshit that he wants to throw my direction. It's not even true. It's just something he's extrapolating out of nowhere. The reason why I care so much is because I care about my fellow humans. I want the best possible world that we can have. And one of the ways to do that is to tackle charlatanry. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
All right, Messenger, would you like to have like a closing little thingy?
Sure.
Thingy. I said thingy.
I got a thingy for you.
My ears hurt. I need to get these damn headphones off of my ears. I got big ears.
So again, as I've said, dozens of times on dozens of different shows, I always offer hope for things that people suffer from. And I've received those truths and those understanding for the things that people struggle with from an inner being standpoint, for the biological, cognitive, experiential, and emotional processes. And all I've ever done in these communities is help people be better versions of themselves by better understanding what's going on the inside, not just responding or trying to act out the right way on the exterior. So when I talk about the human response model, I believe that we have internal biological, cognitive, experiential, and emotional processes that interpret the world around us. And that's from our both internal and external senses. And then from there, the way that we act and behave, choose and decide and express ourselves is an inevitable outcome from that internal being. So if people would stop trying to act the right way and try to stop behaving the right way and actually learn to become the right way, then they can be free from these things like depression, anxiety, stress, and anger. So that's my goal, is to help people remove the symptomologies that are interfering with their own personal well-being so that they can function and enjoy the lives that they have. I've never asked for money. I don't desire money. I don't desire the things that I do. I try to help people be a better version of themselves so they can have healthy interpersonal relationships with one another without beating up and attacking each other in very negative and vicious ways. Thanks, Knock.
And I just, I know like Atheist Rationale, you got big beef, and I think legitimate beef with Messenger, and I think Messenger, like anybody who is gonna be attacked, is gonna respond. my hope is, because I think that I like both of you guys. So my hope is that you can continue this conversation and come to some conclusion, because I think that ultimately Messenger is a Christian that I appreciate, because he takes a different stance and he isn't afraid to take a different stance on Christianity. Prostitute, I can't speak right now. I haven't even started drinking yet, so this is going to be bad. But that word to me, like, it's not that big of a deal, as long as it's, you know, like trying to sell something. But like, you know, I want the Christians to be able to speak, like even the ones that are just trolling, like DD in the chat, and praise I am that I am not, whatever his name is. So like, I really want Christians to be able to speak and do whatever in their chats. So, that might be more of an issue that I should become aware of. But I do think that Messenger's genuine. Like, we have really good interactions. You know, we speak offset sometimes. I think you guys would get along. But you know, Messenger, you are going to be drinking with me tonight, so let's try to get into a better spot.
Sure. No, I agree, and I hope none of this comes up, and because that would defeat the purpose of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, no, we're going to stay away from this and from politics, hopefully. And like, I don't expect to fully stay away from politics completely, but I definitely don't want to be talking a lot of politics when I'm drinking on YouTube. It's not going to work out well. Go ahead.
Out something. I hate to say this. I hate to be that guy. There's going to be no common ground that he and I can stand on as long as he's targeting vulnerable people. It's as simple as that. Like, if you're using your theology and your experience as a person to claim to have this magical cure that no psychologist or professional in the field claims to have, then there's always going to be a problem. If you want to continue to have this conversation, I kind of hate how I come off on live streams. I know I have my autism causes issues. Like I said, I have memory things, communication errors, and emotional reciprocity errors. All that.
I think you did pretty good, man. I think you had your points and you said them. You know, I think you did pretty good.
If you want to continue, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to continue to have this conversation, let's do it through back and forth on videos. That's where I'm at. That's my go-to here. Video responses. And I plan on making a video amalgamating all of this stuff together. I have more notes than the ones that I had slightly disorganized here, but it'll be coming. I got Marcus Rogers I want to talk to you about. I want to cover Marcus Rogers before I do anything else, though. So that'll be coming.
No, like, I want to be clear. I don't hope that AR can, you know, like, seeks counseling from Messenger. I just hope that they dialogue with each other as human beings and resolve their issues. If you're taking issue with that, I don't see why, because that's kind of the point, isn't it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Right. I mean, they're trying to be like, I don't understand. Mr. Pluto's like, I don't understand why the Raging Atheist doesn't get it. I get exactly what you're saying, Atheist Rationale, and I've said it to Messenger myself. That's going to be, he's going to come across a lot of fucking criticism in our community for selling a cure that he can't provide proof for. That's why I tried to take the debate to the cure. What I'm saying is, I want you guys to continue speaking as human beings and resolve your issues if there can be resolution. I'm not in any way saying that Atheist Rationale should try to seek the cure.
I don't think anybody in the chat was saying that either.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty much like, you know.
I think some people were criticizing that you said that you wanted us to, like, be friends or something.
Oh no, not be friends. Just work out your differences. You know, like, that's
he's saying be somewhat amicable to where you're not each other's throat every time there's a live stream.
And I totally understand that. And, you know, that's the best outcome. But
I mean, Mr. Pluto says, you hope that AR continues to be at risk of damage with this charlatan. No, I don't. I don't think that AR is at risk of being damaged by Messenger, because he's not getting counseling from Messenger. This is a debate about an issue that he has with the word cure. I had that same issue. I've made that plain to Messenger. This isn't my debate. This was AR's debate, so I tried to stay out of it.
I see through it, and I'm sure everybody in the chat knows that, like, that's not what he was advocating. He doesn't want me to get counseling. He just wants us to
be amicable.
common ground and like be amicable. But
yeah, I mean, eventually you guys are both going to be on my stream again. I'm hoping that this doesn't come up like every single time that you guys are both on the stream. You know?
I'm not going to bring it up if he doesn't.
I could
There's no
totally be
point.
amicable. What I'm trying to say though is like in the back of my head, I'm always gonna the fact that he started vulnerable people out there.
And of course, if you don't want to be on a stream that Messenger's on, I'm going to respect your wishes. So I'm not saying, oh, you know, this is
just,
all of all. I'm just, as a humanist, I want human beings to try to find at least some common ground. I think we both made our opposition to this argument. The opposition is the word cure. I don't think that any of us can question his knowledge on the issue or the fact that it's very possible he has this methodology that he thinks works. It's the word cure is my problem, you know, because that has such strong such a strong meaning behind it. Which, you know, and I do appreciate Messenger's definition of the word cure, but it's to me it has it's a strong meaning.
Yeah. Are we?
But I do want to get to a negative or to a positive place. So, you know,
choose your words carefully.
Yeah, I've got to be in the right frame of mind going into this drinking thing tonight.
What I'm trying to say is there's always going to be like a back and forth if this is what's going to continue to happen. I can be amicable on streams. That's fine. That's
right. And like I said, you have to be on streams together.
There's always going to be like a butting heads when it comes to this because there's no way that he and I are ever going to see common ground because you have no data, you have no cure. If you can't even tell us or confirm what your methodology is, you probably don't even have a real methodology. There's so many factors that go into it, but we're done with this conversation and that's basically where it ends.
I mean, I definitely think that you made valid points through the entire debate. I wanted to let you guys be, instead of battling each other in the chat, to have a place to come and battle each other, you know, face to face. And I think you guys did that well. I just wanted to really pull the plug once it started delving into assuming things about the other. And I don't want it to go into a dark place. I just wanted you guys to both be able to voice out the running thing that you've had. I've tried to do this with Matt Powell. He refuses to do it. I think that if people talk out their differences, there's always a chance to find resolution. That's what I was hoping. But I mean, we all said coming into this, it was going to be a damn dumpster fire. So we knew what we was coming into. So, but you know, I mean, we didn't get the resolution I was hoping for, but that's what I'm saying ultimately is be human beings. And maybe one day you will find resolution and who knows, maybe Messenger will get peer reviewed and there'll be a damn cure to PTSD and he can shove it back in me and your asses. Who fucking knows what the future is going to be?
He's got a long way to go for that to ever happen, and he's got a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of
5 to 6 years for that PhD, if I remember correctly, right?
I mean, me and Messenger's not going to agree on that, but we can still be friends and still have really good conversations, and I can still appreciate his different form of Christianity. I'm just now starting to get on his channel a little bit, so I'm sure I would be very critical of some of the things I find. You know, I'm quite sure of it, but that's what I do. But my main goal was I've never moderated before, so I just really wanted you guys to be able to go at it. Hopefully I did that. I know that people wanted me to get in a lot more than I was getting in. Like, it'd be nice if these two had a moderator, and I'm like, just let them go. Just let them go.
No matter how this conversation went and how it might have looked at me, I see it as a learning experience. I'm going to look at this later, see how I reacted emotionally, where I reacted emotionally, and try to avoid that later. And then obviously I need to work on organization skills. So there's that. And
I'm with you on that one, dude. and getting emotional shit, man. Who am I to fucking talk shit? But I thought you handled yourself well. You had legitimate points. It's going to get heated. We knew it was going to get heated. You know, like we knew coming in it was going to get heated. So, but we're going to have fun tonight. So you guys need to tune in for that. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I also got 4 bottles of really strong beer. Will Kincaid, you fucking pussy. Thought that a pint? You thought a pint was going to be enough, dude? This is a fifth. This isn't a big bottle. So you got a pint? What the fuck is wrong with you, guy?
What does he weigh, 130 pounds?
Yeah, like I am gonna go through this whole fifth and probably get into those beers, dude. I hope you are coming prepared for this thing.
Can you tell us that you're 6'5", how much you weigh? Like, what's your body size in terms of?
Last time I checked, I was at 235. But I fluctuate between 235 and 250.
Damn, because look, I'm 5'9" and I weigh 235.
I think the odds are stacked in my favor on this thing. I'm just saying, you little people aren't going to be able to. And like I said, I'm Native American and I'm Irish. So.
Well, that has nothing to do with the price of tea in China for body alcohol content.
Well, I'm just saying, like the white man pushed alcohol on us.
He gave us fire water.
But we're gonna get out of here because I'm gonna start dinner for my little girl, and we ended up going an hour and 45 minutes.
My quick question.
I'm not mad at anybody. Like I'm not mad at you, dog, Mr. Pluto, the dog. I was just trying to clarify. Like, no, of course I'm not trying to say. I'm a humanist, man. If I can sit there and try to work shit out with fuckwad Matt Powell, I think anybody can try to work shit out with anybody. At least try. Give it a shot. Yeah, go for it, man.
Before we cut out, I had a quick question. I noticed for the links on my sources, you have them as Twitter links. I was wondering if you could copy paste the message and just set it there because I believe the descriptions and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I can try to do that. I'm not really very technical savvy. Would be good at. I've never actually done that, I don't think, but I can try. And if not, then I can see if my roommate would be able to help me with the more advanced technical stuff. Because I didn't really like how it showed up because you had these long paragraphs and I only got the links. So yeah, I'll figure that how to do that. And I'll get that in there. Oh yeah, no problem, man. And like I said, Messenger, look at those articles when you have time and respond to Atheist Rationale. Maybe that will be a way that you can start a conversation forward or something. I don't know, but let's not talk.
Do I have your email, Atheist Rationale?
I don't really use email.
Yeah, I usually talk to him on Twitter.
You don't use email.
I think it's a generational thing, honestly.
Could be.
Nobody I know in the community really communicates with email. They use Discord or Twitter, and this is how I've been doing it for about 8-10 months now, and I don't know. You're the only person I've ever talked to that has strict communication through.
Well, I am old.
Well, and one thing I really want to say about Atheist Rationale, because I'm a fan of his. And I don't say that. I have a lot of people on my channel that I've never seen their channel like Messenger. I'm just now starting to see a couple of your videos. It's really I don't have a lot of time to start looking at new people, but I do watch Atheist Rationale's channel, and this is a topic that he is very passionate about, and it's not just Messenger. He covers this extensively, and so you guys need to really go to Atheist Rationale's channel because this is something he's very passionate about, and I highly urge you not to lose that passion, AR, because I think it's only going to drive your channel, make it great.
Gotta get over a couple of personal things with the tisms and stuff.
Well, I mean, you're autistic,
Yeah, once I learn to stop over focusing on people, I'm sure my channel will take off. I got 600 subscribers a lot faster than most people. That's
shit. You're talking to people that I wouldn't have dreamed of talking to at that point. I didn't start trying to talk to people until just a couple months ago, and you're all over the place. So you're doing good work, man.
I got kind of lucky. I'm a big fan of all these people, so.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes I get a little starstruck, and it's hard not to show. Holy fuck, I'm talking to these people I've been watching.
I get starstruck. I don't know what it is. Even in this conversation, I was starstruck before. No joke. It takes at least an hour before I relax and that feeling goes away.
Yeah. It takes getting used to this YouTube thing, man. But you're doing great work over there. And I enjoy my conversations with Messenger. I'm looking forward to tonight. We're going to have this big drinking contest on Friday night. Everybody, Dr. Josh, Scholar Fiction, Praise I Am, and Jill is going to be on Modern Day Debate. We've been looking forward to this debate for a long time.
When's that happening?
Friday, this coming up Friday night. So it would be less than a week now. So that's going to be a good one. Yeah.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
Dr. Josh Scholar Fiction. Praise I am that I'm whatever. And Jill, Jesus is Lord, our favorite misogynist fucktard. I'm going to say it. I'm trying not to say that word anymore, but he's a fucktard. And yeah, so they're going to, and I kid with these guys. I enjoy talking to them.
He seems
kind of talked. We just kind of talked about having a debate between Praise, Jill, myself, and maybe Jim Majors. So we'll see if that happens as well. But we are about 3.5 hours away from cracking open this bottle and making
Dun.
I'm gonna make Will Kincaid. I'm gonna make Will Kincaid cry live on YouTube tonight. He's gonna be so drunk. He's just gonna be, I love you, man. I love you.
I'm honestly looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
We'll see if Earl comes out tonight.
Yeah, he might come out a little bit. I do get more when I'm drinking.
That southern
heavy,
twang is gonna come out.
When I'm drinking heavy, that southern comes out a little more.
That's out. We'll help you out with that. All. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That they're gonna get real cool.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm somewhat alive to go Easter egg hunting tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. And hopefully, I don't get struck at lightning if it happens at a church. But I'm gonna get out of here because I am gonna start dinner. I'm gonna have a good dinner, Will Kincaid and Messenger. I highly suggest both of you do the same. And we'll see you guys in a few hours.
All right, thanks again.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.